The sun had not yet risen when Deputy Val Johnson set out on patrol through the quiet, open stretches of Marshall County. It was the early hours of August 27th, 1979, and the rural roads were silent, the air heavy with the kind of stillness that only comes in the dead of night. The beam of the patrol car's headlights cut through the darkness, illuminating nothing but endless fields and the faint outline of telephone poles stretching into the horizon. It was a shift like any other, until, just after 1:40 a.m., an odd light appeared on the road ahead. At first, Johnson thought it was another vehicle, though its brightness was unnervingly intense, almost too powerful for ordinary headlights. It hovered, unmoving, until it suddenly surged forward, closing the distance between itself and Johnson's vehicle in an instant. Before he could react, the light engulfed the patrol car, and a blinding flash filled the cabin. Then, silence. When Johnson regained consciousness, the patrol car was in the middle of the road, its windshield fractured, its hood dented, and its radio antenna inexplicably bent at a sharp angle. His wristwatch and the car's clock had both stopped, frozen exactly at 1:40 a.m. Johnson himself was dazed, his eyes painfully irritated, as if he had stared directly into the sun. The light, whatever it had been, was gone. In the moments that followed, the deputy tried to gather his thoughts, but the eerie feeling that something extraordinary and deeply unexplainable had occurred lingered like a chill in the air. What began as a routine patrol was now a mystery that would ripple far beyond the quiet roads of Marshall County. In the early hours of August 27, 1979, the tranquil farmlands of Marshall County, Minnesota, became the backdrop for an encounter that defies explanation. Deputy Sheriff Val Johnson, a respected law enforcement officer, embarked on a routine patrol that would soon become anything but ordinary. At approximately 1:40 a.m., while navigating the isolated roads near Stephen, Minnesota, Deputy Johnson observed a brilliant light suspended above the highway. In an instant, the light surged toward him, engulfing his vehicle in a blinding radiance. Moments later, Johnson lost consciousness. When he regained awareness, 39 minutes had inexplicably vanished. His wristwatch and the vehicle's clock had both stopped for exactly 14 minutes. The patrol car bore the scars of the encounter: a shattered windshield, a bent antenna, and a damaged headlight. Johnson himself suffered from eye irritation akin to welder's burns. Perplexed and disoriented, Deputy Johnson radioed for assistance, setting into motion an investigation that would captivate the nation. The late 1970s were a period rife with reports of unidentified flying objects across the United States. Minnesota, with its vast open skies, was no exception. In the years leading up to Johnson's encounter, numerous sightings had been documented, fueling public fascination and skepticism alike. Marshall County, characterized by its expansive farmlands and sparse population, seemed an unlikely setting for such an extraordinary event. Yet, the region had its share of unexplained phenomena, with residents occasionally reporting peculiar lights and aerial anomalies. In the aftermath of the incident, law enforcement and independent investigators meticulously examined the evidence. The physical damage to the vehicle was undeniable, yet no conventional explanation could account for it. Medical evaluations revealed that Johnson's eye injuries were consistent with exposure to intense ultraviolet light, further deepening the mystery. Despite thorough investigations, official reports remained inconclusive, leaving the incident shrouded in ambiguity. Theories emerged, ranging from the plausible to the fantastical. Some posited that Johnson had encountered an extraterrestrial craft, its advanced technology responsible for the anomalies. Others suggested natural causes, such as ball lightning, to explain the sudden flash and subsequent damage. Skeptics proposed that the incident wasn't genuine, perhaps a fabricated story to garner attention. Noted UFO skeptic Philip J. Klass argued that the event was a deliberate hoax, suggesting that Johnson had intentionally wrecked his own patrol car. The absence of clear-cut proof led many to dismiss the incident as a case of misperception or fabrication. However, the Val Johnson incident shares striking similarities with other unexplained cases. In 1967, Stephen Michalak reported a close encounter in Manitoba, Canada, resulting in physical burns and radiation sickness. The evidence in his case defied conventional explanations. In the spring of 1967, Michalak, a skilled industrial mechanic and amateur prospector, ventured into the woods near Falcon Lake, Manitoba, in search of quartz and precious metals. What he encountered that day became one of the most meticulously documented UFO cases in Canadian history. The morning of May 20th was crisp and clear as Michalak combed through the rocky terrain near the lake. His tools were jangling softly in his satchel. For hours, he worked undisturbed, the only sounds, the rustling of the forest and the gentle lapping of water against the shore. But by noon, the serenity of the wilderness was shattered by an otherworldly sound. Looking up, Michalak spotted two glowing objects descending from the sky, their surfaces gleaming like polished steel. One of the objects stopped mid-air before abruptly flying away, while the other landed on a rocky outcrop nearby. As it rested on the ground, the craft's shape became clear, an oval disc, smooth and metallic, emitting a faint humming noise. Curiosity overcame caution as Michalak approached the object. He noted a grid-like exhaust vent on the side of the craft, from which a wave of intense heat radiated. The smell of sulfur hung thick in the air. He hesitated but continued forward, peering into the opening of the craft. Inside, he claimed to see what appeared to be a complex panel of flashing lights and machinery, though no occupants were visible. Suddenly, the craft emitted a burst of scorching heat from the vent, catching Michalak directly in the chest and throwing him backward. Disoriented and in searing pain, he watched as the object rose into the air and disappeared into the horizon, with incredible speed. Clawing his way back to camp, Michalak examined his injuries. Burn marks in a grid-like pattern had seared into his shirt and skin, perfectly matching the design of the craft's exhaust vent. Overwhelmed by nausea and dizziness, he managed to return home, where his condition rapidly deteriorated. Doctors who examined Michalak were baffled. The burns on his chest were unlike anything they had encountered, and his symptoms, intense headaches, vomiting, and weakness, suggested radiation sickness. Yet, no source of radiation could be identified, and the equipment he had been carrying showed no contamination. Investigators later returned to the site and found melted rock and scorched vegetation, further supporting Michalak's account. Over the years, his story never wavered, and he even turned over his burned clothing and equipment for analysis. Despite the compelling evidence, the case remains unsolved, shrouded in mystery. These cases, scattered across different regions and time periods, exhibit patterns that challenge the boundaries of our understanding. Decades later, this event and the Val Johnson incident remain topics of intrigue and debate. The Val Johnson incident is not just a story of one man's unexplained experience, it represents a small fragment of a larger puzzle. Around the world, similar accounts have emerged, describing encounters with brilliant lights, physical effects, and missing time. These incidents stretch across decades and continents, forming a web of unexplained phenomena that challenge humanity's understanding of its place in the universe. One of the most famous parallels to Johnson's experience occurred in the Rendlesham Forest. In 1980, multiple military personnel reported seeing strange lights and experiencing physical effects. The incident took place in a forest near a US Air Force base in England. Like Johnson's case, the Rendlesham Forest encounter included descriptions of bright, unexplainable lights and technical malfunctions in nearby equipment. Investigators of that case similarly struggled to find plausible explanations for the observed phenomena. Closer to home, the 1975 Lights Over Minnesota event also shares eerie similarities with the Johnson encounter. In that instance, dozens of residents in central Minnesota reported seeing strange, hovering lights that defied conventional explanations. Some even described losing power in their vehicles or homes during the sightings, paralleling the mechanical malfunctions Val Johnson experienced. These connections further deepen the mystery, suggesting patterns that transcend isolated cases. Skeptics argue that such cases are merely the result of misidentified aircraft, meteorological phenomena, or psychological responses to stress. In Johnson's case, it has been suggested that a low-flying private plane could have caused the light and damage. However, no flight records or eyewitness reports corroborated the presence of an aircraft in the area that night. Similarly, theories involving a meteor or falling space debris fail to account for the vehicle damage, the synchronized clock stoppages, or Johnson's eye injuries. Even among skeptics, the case stands out for its physical evidence, which has been difficult to dismiss. The precise bending of the patrol car's antenna, for instance, appears intentional rather than random, and the cracks in the windshield suggest an impact of unknown origin. Attempts to recreate these effects through conventional means have consistently fallen short, leaving the true cause elusive. Theories about what happened to Val Johnson on that dark stretch of road have spanned the spectrum from the natural to the supernatural. But none have been able to fully account for the bizarre details of the encounter. Beyond ball lightning, skeptics have suggested that Johnson may have collided with a low-flying aircraft or even debris from a meteor. Such explanations, while grounded in science, struggle to reconcile with the finer points of the incident. For example, while a meteor or aerial debris might explain the flash of light, neither would cause the precise physical damage observed on Johnson's vehicle, damage that was symmetrical and localized in ways that suggested intelligent design rather than random impact. Nor could such natural phenomena explain the clock stoppages or Johnson's sudden loss of consciousness. These elements leave skeptics searching for answers, where logic begins to falter. One of the more unsettling theories suggests that Johnson's encounter was not with a natural phenomenon at all, but rather with an advanced piece of technology, one not of this earth. Proponents of this idea point to the pattern of UFO sightings in Minnesota during the late 1970s, including reports of bright, hovering lights and metallic crafts seen by multiple witnesses. In this view, Johnson may have come too close to something he was not meant to see. In the 1970s, the United States was deep into the Cold War, a period marked by rapid technological advancements, particularly in aerospace and military innovation. Experimental aircraft, such as the SR-71 Blackbird and early stealth prototypes, were already pushing the boundaries of what was thought possible. Minnesota, with its open skies and sparse population, could have served as a testing ground for classified projects. One intriguing possibility is that Johnson inadvertently crossed paths with an experimental drone or aircraft equipped with highly advanced propulsion systems. The intense light and electromagnetic effects he reported could align with certain propulsion technologies, such as plasma-based or electromagnetic thrusters, which are theorized to produce radiant energy as a byproduct. But why would such an encounter leave physical damage on his patrol car? Proponents of this theory argue that the bent antenna and shattered windshield could have been caused by electromagnetic pulses or shock waves from the craft. Furthermore, the clock stoppages, both in the car and on Johnson's wrist, are consistent with the effects of powerful electromagnetic fields, which can temporarily disrupt or permanently disable electronic and mechanical devices. Yet this theory raises as many questions as it answers. If Johnson had encountered experimental government technology, why was he left to report his experience so openly? Wouldn't such an encounter have prompted immediate intervention, either to suppress the story or to retrieve evidence? Skeptics of the government technology theory point to the lack of any follow-up, either by military or federal agencies, as the critical flaw in this explanation. While theories of advanced human technology offer one path of inquiry, Others suggest that Johnson's encounter was not with something extraterrestrial or terrestrial, but something interdimensional. This idea challenges our very understanding of reality, positing that certain regions, often referred to as thin spots, may act as gateways between our dimension and others. Supporters of this theory point to recurring patterns in unexplained encounters, intense light, disorientation, and a disruption of time. Could the flash of light Johnson described have been the opening of such a gateway, temporarily exposing him to phenomena outside the bounds of our physical laws? His injuries, described as akin to welder's burns, might reflect exposure to forces or energies unique to another dimension. One particularly eerie aspect of interdimensional theories is their ability to account for the otherwise inexplicable precision of the event. The symmetrical damage to the patrol car, the perfect alignment of the clock stoppages, and Johnson's abrupt loss of consciousness all suggest an encounter with something governed by rules far beyond human comprehension. But interdimensional theories are not without their skeptics. Critics argue that they rely heavily on speculation and lack tangible evidence. The existence of alternate dimensions remains theoretical, rooted in cutting-edge physics, but unproven in practical terms. Additionally, if such gateways do exist, why would their effects manifest in such a targeted and isolated manner? Why Val Johnson, on a quiet stretch of rural road, and why then? While skepticism is a vital part of any investigation, cases like the Val Johnson incident resist easy dismissal. The precision of the physical damage, combined with the physiological effects Johnson experienced, defies naturalistic explanations. Government technology theories fail to explain why an experimental craft would engage a civilian law enforcement officer in such a dramatic and seemingly reckless manner. Interdimensional theories, while speculative, at least offer a framework for understanding the event's seemingly impossible elements. One detail that stands out is the consistency of the account. Val Johnson's story has remained unchanged over decades, with no evidence of embellishment or motive for fabrication. His reluctance to speculate or sensationalize lends credence to his experience. Additionally, the lack of any conclusive alternative explanation leaves the door open for theories that stretch beyond conventional logic. Whether the source was human innovation or a phenomenon from beyond our dimension, the Val Johnson incident remains a compelling mystery. The patrol car from the incident now resides in the Marshall County Historical Society Museum, preserved as a tangible reminder of that strange August night. For the residents of Marshall County, the incident has become a cornerstone of local folklore, blending small-town charm with cosmic mystery. While the Val Johnson incident may never yield definitive answers, it serves as a reminder of the limitations of human understanding. Perhaps the event was an encounter with advanced technology, either extraterrestrial or experimental. Or perhaps it points to natural phenomena yet to be fully understood. Whatever the explanation, the encounter continues to inspire curiosity and unease, urging us to look beyond what we know and ask what might lie hidden in the vast expanse of our skies.